Make better money choices. Choose a bank that takes your money seriously. Business Watch is brought to you by Nedbank.
All right, 1400 hours, you're watching I beg your pardon, you're watching Nedbank Business Watch here on Eswatini TV. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. A rather chilly one, Lulu, but nonetheless, we try to keep warm. You always emphasize we should always stay warm to avoid flu. My name is Sifiso Ngumalo. Happy to have you on the program.
Good afternoon. Thank you for tuning in. This is Nedbank Business Watch. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. All right, the Nedbank IMC, Africa's biggest marketing conference, has officially announced its 2026 event anchored by the theme Shift Happens, Are You Ready? This is a direct challenge to marketers, business leaders and agencies navigating one of the fastest periods of change the industry has ever faced. It is taking place on the 17th of September this year. The IMC CEO Dale Heffer joins us virtually later on the program. And then later on our final segment, we will be joined by Toba Gamete, who will give us the latest developments on today's markets.
Also coming up on the program, we want to take a closer look at the very two key important developments that are shaping Eswatini's economic and as well as its environmental landscape. First, we want to unpack the latest monetary and financial figures from the Central Bank of Eswatini with our economist Sanele Sibia. Of course, it's only right that we look at the private sector credit, the pressure facing SMEs, money supply, government borrowing, and the latest movement in the country's foreign reserves. And then we want to turn to climate finance as well as environmental action as the Eswatini Environment Fund formalizes a strategic partnership with Namibia's Environmental Investment Fund. We will be speaking to Zandisile Hau, who is the information officer at the Eswatini Environment Fund. I beg your pardon. We want to really talk about what this partnership means for climate finance mobilization as well as environmental governance and sustainable development in Eswatini. Again, you are watching Nedbank Business Watch. A very good afternoon.
Digital helps you make cross-border payments. Human gives you global specialists. Digital allows you to apply for a loan anytime, anywhere. Human connects you to credit experts. Digital puts you in control of your money, while Human connects you to wealth advisors. Digital allows you to freeze, unfreeze, cancel, and reorder your card. Human gives you that personal touch. Digital when you want it. Human when you need it. Get the complete private banking experience with Nedbank Private Clients.
All right, so welcome back. You're tuned into Nedbank Business Watch, and now for our business news.
We look at our first story now. Students from different schools, colleges and tertiary institutions across the country have been empowered with leadership knowledge and skills. Now speaking during the Student Leadership Conference at Inyati House in Manzini, the Minister for Finance for Commerce, Industry and Trade, Honorable Mangoba Kumalo, challenged students to see opportunities in the face of challenges as well as to take action to address them. The conference was hosted by Litwala Insurance.
The Minister for Commerce, Industry and Trade urges aspiring leaders to first understand what success means to them and then take deliberate action to achieve it. He challenges young people to look beyond problems and see possibilities, reminding them that true leadership is about serving others. He encourages them to ask themselves what success looks like in their own leadership journey and to make excellence their leadership mantra.
Wherever I lead, I'm very intentional about improvement. I never measure activity, I measure results. I'm not impressed by the busiest person. I am impressed by the most effective person. I also hold myself to the same standard. It's about jobs. Are we creating jobs? It's about entrepreneurs. Are we creating new entrepreneurs? It's about foreign direct investment. Are we getting foreign direct investment in the country? It's about our GDP. Is our GDP growing as a result of my interventions? And I'm satisfied when I see the report saying Eswatini in the last 5 years has grown an average of 4 to 5% of our GDP, and I feel I'm making a difference. If you want to be a great leader, be great at breaking common trends. When I finished my degree, there was an unspoken rule that BSc chemistry graduates became teachers. If you didn't become a teacher, you went to study medicine. If you didn't study medicine, you went to study engineering. And most of them then got stuck in those professions. So they would be, career professionals. My mind was different. I wanted to be a generalist because I wanted to be a leader that you can stick anywhere and make a difference.
The managing director of Lidwala Insurance, Dr. Thokozani Ngambule, encourages young people to believe in their potential and take ownership of their leadership journey. He challenges them not to wait for positions or titles before making an impact, but to start demonstrating leadership through their decisions, actions, and willingness to take responsibility.
We believe that leadership begins after a promotion. It doesn't. Leadership begins before anyone notices you. Leadership begins when nobody is watching you. Leadership is not about authority. It's about usefulness. How useful are you outside of your title?
Babane Municipal Council's Chief Executive Officer, Gciniwe Fagudze, emphasizes that leadership requires the ability to remain focused, adapt to changing circumstances, and find solutions even when the path ahead is difficult.
If you open a business and I open the same business, something must stand out that makes me unique and different around that. So it's called the unique value proposition. So that's what we're going to be harnessing with the young people. How do you identify what makes me stand out?
Several students who attended the meeting say they left with a deeper understanding of what it means to be a leader. They say one of the key lessons was that leadership requires willingness to learn continuously, listen to different perspectives, and accept that no leader has all the answers. For them, the meeting highlighted the importance of staying curious, learning from others, and constantly improving themselves.
One speaker said leadership is influence. In order for you to be a good leader, you must be willing to serve, because leadership is not a title.
I've learned that as a leader, you must just always find a way to identify a problem that we're having as a country, as Eswatini, like identify the gap, and then find a structural solution to solve that particular gap you identified.
What I've learned from Lama speakers is that as a young person who's a leader or who's said to be a leader, I have to find ways of be open, willing to become a better person.
Across the meeting, all the speakers delivered a common message. Leadership is not defined by a title, but by the ability to serve, inspire, learn, and create positive change. They challenged young people to see themselves as leaders today, to pursue excellence, and to turn their ideas and potential into meaningful action. Reporting, Nelswen Langamandla, Vuminkosi Nzinisa, Manzini.
All right, and that marks the end of our business news. It's 9 minutes after 2.
We connect with Zandisile Howe, the information officer from the Eswatini Environmental Office, after the break. Welcome back. A new regional partnership is set to strengthen efforts to address climate change as well as environmental challenges in Eswatini and Namibia. The Eswatini Environment Fund has joined forces with the Environment Investment Fund of Namibia in a new institutional partnership that is aimed at mobilizing climate finance, improving environmental governance as well as strengthening capacity. Now, the two institutions have formalized their collaboration through the signing of an MOU, and the agreement comes at a time when African countries, including Eswatini, are under increasing pressure to find sustainable ways of financing climate action, of protecting natural resources, and building resilience against the impacts of climate change. But of course, beyond the signing ceremony, the big question then becomes whether this partnership will translate into real investment, into stronger environmental policies, as well as tangible benefits for communities on the ground. And to help us understand what this agreement means, the opportunities that it creates, as well as what the public can expect from it, we are joined by Zandisile, who is the Environmental Information Officer at the Eswatini Environment Authority. Thank you for your time, Zandisile. A very good afternoon to you. Thank you so much for joining us here on the program. Maybe just to kick-start us, let's maybe understand what this partnership really seeks to achieve.
Thank you for having us, and good afternoon to all our viewers at home. So indeed, the Eswatini Environment Fund did sign a memorandum of understanding with the Namibian Investment Fund, which is basically the counterpart for the Environment Fund, but based in Namibia. And this relationship started in 2022, whereby we encountered each other at global conferences, and we shared some same ideas on increasing climate finance within African countries, especially within Southern Africa, due to the different environmental challenges that we face that are similar and that are also a bit different. So Namibia is actually one of the leading countries in terms of resource mobilization due to this model that they're currently working on, that, for example, they have green bonds, they have climate loans and all the other stuff beyond the grants as a form of resource mobilization for the institution. And the interesting stuff that we also learned from them was that, for example, the Environment Fund should go beyond rehabilitating our landscape, but it should also be injecting into our national GDP. It should further help in creating employment opportunities for our young people. So this MOU, as well as many other recommendations, as we had done a benchmarking exercise back also in 2022 in Namibia, to see how best we can further grow our fund to become a mega fund. Especially this is coming after the cabinet has even approved that we do need to increase our funding, so that more Eswatini can be able to benefit from these climate finance, as well as our environment be able to benefit.
The partnership focuses heavily on climate finance mobilization. Where do you propose that money comes from? And perhaps you could also share what kind of projects, that it's looking to finance.
So definitely the thematic areas our focus in Eswatini will be focusing on the environmental challenges that we face, which include things such as waste management, land degradation, as we're seeing an increase of dongas across our country. So this in planning to increase is more for helping save our environment and the pressures that we are facing. There are grants that they do give out that they also do receive. But for example, there also are climate bonds or green bonds, as I had said, that these are sort of investments that the private sector is allowed to tap into. But this is also managed by the banks. In some instances, this can be in form of loans, but basically financing that is green, that will be able to also make a revenue. Also exploring things such as levies.
Oh. Unfortunately, it looks like we have lost our connection with Zandisile. She is the Information Officer from the Eswatini Environment Authority. We are trying to reconnect with her once again to further our conversation, just to really understand, what it is that they really found worth it, because they did go to on a benchmarking exercise 4 years ago, and that was 2022, and that has eventuated to what we are seeing today, the signing of this very critical MOU. And she does, of course, speak to some of the projects that are quite of urgent imperative when it comes to, the current state of the environment in the Kingdom of Eswatini. Climate finance being the key priority, and of course, Donga rehabilitation making the top of that list. We want to go for a net break now, as we beg your pardon for what has just happened. We will go for a quick ad break, and we will be back shortly. Stay with us.
Attention retailers, importers, clearing agents and customs brokers. All television sets and decoders entering the Kingdom of Eswatini now require mandatory ESTVA authorization before customs clearance. No clearance without valid ESTVA import permit. Don't risk delays at the border. Submit your application 24 to 48 hours before your shipment arrives. We process complete applications in just 1 to 2 working days. Our QR-coded permits make the verification quick and easy. Always double-check your HS codes and quantities for smooth compliance. The process is simple. Step 1. Submit your completed application form. Annex A with product line items for TVs, decoders, and commercial invoice. Step 2. Eswatini TV reviews and approves. Step 3. Make payment and complete verification. Step 4. Receive your permit. Step 5. Clear customs smoothly at the border. Make sure you have all your required documents, a completed application form, Annex A detailing your product line items, commercial invoice, valid TV retailer license, and letter of authority if applicable. Our permits feature QR codes for easy border verification. For assistance, email us at license@eswatinitv.co.za or call our help desk. Apply before your shipment arrives. Ensure compliance and avoid delays. Remember, all TV sets and decoders entering the Kingdom of Eswatini must have a valid ESTVA import permit. Thank you. Act now.
Welcome back to the program. Credit extended to the private sector stood at 23.8 billion emalangeni at the end of June 2026, representing a 0.5% decline month-on-month, but a 10.1% increase year-on-year. Now, this is according to the Central Bank of Eswatini's monthly statistical release for June and July 2026, a report that shows that the month-on-month decline was mainly driven by lower credit uptake in the business business sector. Meanwhile, the banking sector's liquidity position improved, rising by 0.3% month-on-month and 25% year-on-year to 8.7 billion. And of course, according to the report, the country's provisional gross official reserves also increased by 23.1% month-on-month, reaching 10 billion in July 2026. We have Sanele Sbia, who is in studio, who is going to help us understand all these numbers that are inside this monthly statistical release. Thank you for your time, Mr. Sbia. I really appreciate you joining us here in studio. Really, really interesting numbers that we are seeing here. But what would you say is the single most important message, that these numbers are telling us about the state of the economy right now?
Thank you, Mr. Nxumalo. Good afternoon to you, and also good afternoon to the viewers. So when I looked at the numbers, what was a bit more striking for me was the fact that we are seeing that month-on-month decline in terms of credits extended, more especially to businesses. But when you're looking at it in terms of the household side of things, you can see that households are posting a positive gain. So even though we're seeing the number in nominal terms, it's increasing. But the fact that month-on-month we are seeing this decline somehow shows the times we are in, and it just shows that business is somewhat, taking a step back in terms of, getting that credit. Or it also means that, the banks themselves are also, in a way, a bit jittery to lend money in this very uncertain environment. So it just does bring into mind the fact that we are in what we call turbulent, uncertain times economically. And then also there is the reserves position. There's a slight upward notch there, and I think we are still not yet at the comfort level of that 3 months import cover, but the fact that we can see that they tend to move with SACCO receipts, and now that's yet another worry, because now we're seeing the impact of SACCO not just on the fiscal side of things, but also on the monetary policy side of things, where we have most, when SACCO comes in, we can see that there is a bit of an upward notch. So we do need to diversify trade and make sure that we are getting foreign exchange through other means, so that we can beef up our reserves to protect the peg. And then there is also the issue of net claims on government. We've seen that those have also gone up a bit. Again, it's quite expected, because we know that it goes with the cycle. When SACCO revenues come in, the advance to a central bank gets offset, and then when those begin to be drawn down again, we get yet another advance coming through. So now that's a bit of what we need to be able to do, what we need to look into as a country. It's a sign of the times, and then also it's an issue of overall dependence on SACCO receipts, and it also just shows on the monetary policy side of things.
I want us to look at, private sector credit reaching 23.8 billion emalangeni, and they're saying it's up 10.1% year-on-year, but down 0.5% month-on-month. What does this really tell us? Is this a temporary movement in terms of, what we have been seeing monthly, or would you suggest that, the decline suggests that businesses, as well as, they are becoming more cautious now when it comes to borrowing as well as investing?
Like I said earlier on, Mr. Nxumalo, it's more a sign of the times. Earlier on, when we started this war, or when this war between Iran and the US started, the expectation was it's going to be a 2-month thing. So, businesses continued as usual with the hope that it's going to be a 2-month thing at most. That's what President Trump said, 8 weeks at most. But what we're seeing month on month is we've seen it drag on to, I think, June. And then that's when we started seeing signs of a ceasefire. And then we had a ceasefire with a lot of fire. So businesses are taking that into consideration. And then when you move into looking forward, when we are looking in terms of what it means, for the economy, we tend to see all of those shifts are happening with the price of fuel going up. So businesses are also pricing in, to a certain extent, an interest rate increase, of which then that's when we start seeing businesses pulling back in terms of borrowing. So it could be a bit of that. And then it's also an issue of a bit of what the banks are expecting in terms of the operating environment, in terms of the overall macroeconomic environment, in terms of the overall supply chains. So you find that during such times when banks are pricing in a bit of a inject too much risk into the market, they tend to be a bit more stringent with their money, because we don't want to have a situation of and forever rising what you call it non-performing loan portfolio, and I say that that's most likely the story here, because when you look at what is happening in terms of access to credit to households, now that one actually jumped up, right? So you can see that was a bit of a positive there. So we're seeing a bit of that, where households are in a bid to deal with these very escalating cost of living pressures, are somehow now borrowing just to sustain that consumption.
Do we apply the same logic? I mean, you say banks are being stringent on the way that they borrow. Do you apply the same logic on the numbers that we are seeing on SMEs? Because it seems as though they are bearing the brunt of everything that is ongoing. The numbers say credit to SMEs fell 7.5% month on month, while lending to large enterprises actually increased. What is the story there?
Yeah, that's most likely pretty much the same story in terms of the capacity to absorb an oncoming shock. So when you are doing your lending matrix, you look at the capacity to absorb an oncoming shock. So SMMEs in most cases do not have that capacity. They they are in a way at a higher risk, because they don't have the big lines of funding. They don't have the big capital, reserves, buffers that they can dig into just to sustain their momentum even during times of a crisis. And then also in terms of the ability of SMMEs to absorb a supply shock. So SMMEs do not have the same capacity to absorb what we've been seeing in terms of the price of fuel, in terms of the price of fertilizers and everything. They don't have the same capacity to absorb that shock as big businesses would have. So the impact tends to be more immediate on SMMEs compared to big businesses, because they do have that shock absorption capacity.
Yeah, I mean, the central bank admits that, in part, in fact, not even in part, largely, the gross official reserves jumping 23.1% month on month to 10 billion emalanga is largely contributed to the SACU receipts. How much of it is SACU, and how much of it is structural, if any?
Right now, most of it would be SACU, because we've seen the money come in and we've already spent it, we've already paid people. So when the July numbers come in, when the numbers come in for, I think they actually ran these numbers before we started making the payments. So when we wait for August numbers, you'll see that that number now is also going to go down a bit. So I would say 98% SACU and 95% structural, 5% structural.
So we're not in a better off external position, so to speak, because it's just a temporary relief from SACU.
You would say it's an external position, because SACU monies are trade monies,
right?
Nonetheless, so it's money that would have gotten through trade when you look at it from that perspective. But overall, what we are saying is it is money that is coming in. But what I want on is the fact that we are seeing the importance of SACU in both maintaining our external balance and maintaining our fiscal stability, and then also now we're seeing the impact on the monetary policy side of things, because our reserves position is quite critical in ensuring that we maintain the peg with the rand. So it's one of those issues that we need to diversify the economy to make sure that we diversify our exchange rate earning channels, and we also diversify, our government expenditure channels, because any SACU shock would inevitably find its way into both the monetary and fiscal side of things.
Mr. Spear, thank you for your time. Sandile Spear, our economist forever, with really, mind-opening and eye-opening insights. And we have been unpacking the latest statistical release from the Central Bank of Eswatini. When we return from the ad break, Lungelele is in conversation with the IMC, the Nedbank IMC, under the Shift Happens. Are you ready?
right, welcome back. Thank you for staying with us. You're still watching Nedbank Business Watch. The Nedbank IMC, Africa's biggest marketing conference, has officially announced its 2026 event. It is anchored by the theme Shift Happens. Are you ready? This is a direct challenge to marketers, business leaders, and agencies navigating one of the fastest periods of change the industry has ever faced, taking place on the 17th of September this year. IMC CEO Dale Heffer joins us virtually to tell us more about this event. Very good afternoon, Dale. Thank you for joining us on Nedbank Business Watch. So for viewers who may be hearing about it for the first time, what is the Nedbank IMC and what makes it Africa's biggest marketing conference?
The Nedbank IMC is a gathering of marketing thinkers and youngsters and business leaders who gather once a year to discuss marketing and uplift the industry and share ideas and promote the value of marketing on the continent and beyond. It's not a trade conference. It's not an exhibition. It's a gathering of the top marketing minds as well as the up-and-coming people in the industry to share thinking and promote the industry.
All right, so the theme for this year's is Shift Happens. Are you ready? What does it mean for businesses and marketers operating in today's rapidly changing environment?
Yes, that shift is just crazy. I look back on my career in marketing. In the old days, we had a choice of radio, TV, outdoor, print. Now you've got a million different opportunities coming you at all pace and speed, and you have to work out the best way to market with a rapidly evolving market and consumer requirements. So what we do with this conference is we always make sure the speakers provide useful insights, practical guidelines, meaningful insights that people can implement beyond just a 45-minute PowerPoint presentation. We avoid those at all costs. Our presentations are about 15, 20 minutes of hard-hitting insights, more like TED Talk types of insights. So it's not your normal conference where you've got sales pitches and death by PowerPoint. It's really based constructively on the theme and finding solutions for the challenge. And obviously one of the biggest challenges today is change and the rapid pace of it.
Yeah, sounds interesting. So why has marketing become a boardroom and business growth issue rather than simply a communications or an advertising function?
You know, interestingly enough, I think it always has been a boardroom issue, but people just have never realized. We've often been considered as the poor cousin of the C-suite, but now people are looking towards us a lot more earnestly. And I think that's one thing we've got to be thankful to COVID for. It was interesting, as soon as COVID hit, all the C-suite members immediately turned to marketing and said, what should we do? How do we fix that? And I think it just goes to show how we are at the heart of any business decision. We are the people who are the ones guiding how the brand interacts with the consumer and maximizing that opportunity. In South Africa alone, we're a 40 billion rand a year industry. And not just that, but the people who deliver that budget, they have the power to sway public sentiment and nuance popular culture. So marketing really is at the heart of every single business decision, and marketers should definitely have their seat at the boardroom table.
So what major shifts are currently reshaping marketing across Africa, and which of these should business leaders be paying closest attention to?
I think interestingly enough, and some research just came out of Tebi Akalafing's Brand Africa exercise, and there's an increasing pressure on African businesses to get more take-up from African consumers. Only 18% of the brands Africans most admire are African, despite the fact that 68% of Africans say they believe in Africa. So the challenge and the shift happening in Africa is, how do brands make sure that they get taken up with the same level of acceptance that we take up global brands? So that's, I think, one of the first shifts is that pressure on brands. And the secondly, I think, is around, it's not just a case of adapting a global campaign and running it through Africa. We have to now find ways of tailoring our marketing to the local cultures and the needs. One of our speakers is Suhail Lambada, who's actually the Chief Marketing Officer of KFC in India. And before that, he was head of marketing at KFC in Thailand. And he worked out that you can't just do a global campaign. You have to understand the local nuances beautifully and then tap into those. So, for example, his topic on the day is Stop Making Global Work, a practical guide to building big ideas in local culture. And I think that's the shift happening across Africa, is that local communities want to be able to be respected and understood.
Yeah. So how can African businesses remain locally relevant, Dale, while competing in an increasingly digital and also global marketplace?
I think it all boils down to the same old values. You have to understand your own brand. You have to understand your market and who you're selling it to. You have to understand why your brand is different to other competitor brands. It's the old basics of marketing. What is your differentiator? Is your brand ethical? Is your offering sound? And are you better than your competition? And then it's a case of finding how your brand is actually useful to the consumers. And it's not just another, you need to have this, but how in actual fact can your brand contribute to your customers? So I think it's the old basics, and it applies whether you are a Nike or a one-man shop in Lesotho.
Yeah, so evidently the Nedbank IMC attracts marketers, entrepreneurs, agency leaders, and business decision makers from across the continent. What value does this exchange of African perspectives bring to the industry?
I'll give you one example. We partner with the Institute of Marketing in Malawi. And I always cite this example because it's such a practical, real delivery of what we offer. Every year they send a number of delegates to our conference, and each year we send speakers to theirs. And there is a direct, tangible interchange of cultures and ideas and best practice. So that is just one example of a practical result of the conference. But obviously, we work with organizations such as the Marketing Association of South Africa, whereby countries that attend outside of South Africa and obviously within South Africa too, can seek accreditation through the bodies here. And the different associations. And it's all about knowledge share, but in a practical and meaningful way that is sustainable. We have a number of initiatives that continue not just on the day, but beyond the day. And I think that's where we are really starting to get some real traction. Never before have we seen so many Africans outside of South Africa coming to the conference. We expect Africans to join us from 20 countries from around Africa, including Lesotho. We've got a wonderful relationship with Lesotho, and we look forward to welcoming, with Eswatini, and we really look forward to welcoming the delegates from Eswatini.
All right. So AI is changing how brands understand and communicate with customers. So how can organizations adopt AI without losing creativity, trust, and the human connection?
There's often a perception that if you feed your brand into AI, it'll come out beautifully and sparkly on the other end. And I think that's just a misconception that we all have to address immediately. If your brand is not up to shape before you feed it into AI, it's never going to be right on the other end. So irrespective of how you use AI and modern opportunities, you really have to make sure that the fundamentals of your brand are in shape. As I mentioned just now, you've got to have the right ethical offering in place. You've got to have the right research. You've got to have the good consumer understanding. And if you have those things, and you use AI meaningfully, then it'll only add value.
Nedbank IMC doing to create meaningful opportunities for students, young professionals, and the next generation of African marketing talent?
Ooh, we've got so much on the go. I'm so glad you asked me that question. I could talk for half an hour on that. I won't, don't worry. We started something many years ago, well, when we first launched the conference, called the Youth 1000 Initiative, whereby we aim to get 1,000 final year marketing students across South Africa to sign up to the Marketing Association of South Africa. To date, we've exceeded that delegate by 100%. So that's just one of the things we're doing. We've spent well over R1 million of attendance value for youngsters to attend the conference. And this year, for the first time, we've actually got a competition to the final year students at the University of Johannesburg, together with Telkom Plugged, who have been given a real life brief, and they have to put a campaign together, and the winning team will be awarded 10,000 Rand on the day. So we're all about practical intervention and not just theory. And we're going to have well over 400 students attending on the day in person. So we are really proud of that. And we also have given away 18 tertiary bursaries so far, together with Red and Yellow. So we are being practical. We really are being practical with our youngsters, and that's always personally for me has been my biggest mission with the conference. Uplift the youngsters. And there's always a long-standing benefit from that. The youngsters that I encouraged to join the conference 8 years ago are now coming through as senior marketers and bringing their own teams along.
But for the youngsters, Dale. So the conference will be hosted in Johannesburg on the 17th of September online. What can delegates expect from this year's program and the speaker lineup?
Yes, it's online and in person. We really welcome in-person delegates. Obviously, you get a lot out of it that you wouldn't if you joined in person. We've got 20 plus speakers, and obviously Nedbank is our naming partner, so we're always excited to have all the Nedbank participants. Ken Sani Nobanda, who heads up marketing at Nedbank, is a crucial part of the day. And in addition to that, we've got 4 global keynotes, including Suhail, as I mentioned, and another 3. We've got things ranging from a youth panel where we've actually, for the first time, got a 9-year-old sitting on the panel. We don't have old people talking about young people. We've got actual young people in the panel. We've also got, for the first time, a panel on the top CMOs across the 100 most influential CMOs. That's another Tebia Kalafing initiative. They're going to be having a panel. But it's a day of hard-hitting, and it's not just marketing. We also have general motivation and thought leadership. Our challenge every year with the agenda is to create something that's of relevance, not just to top CMOs, but also to students, business leaders. It's got to be something that everyone finds something to take out of from the day.
Yeah, so why should business leaders and marketing professionals from Eswatini and the wider Southern African region participate in this year's Nedbank IMC?
I think, as I said earlier, it's about idea sharing, about upliftment, about best practice, bringing together best practice, about sharing opportunities of all the associations and industry bodies. For example, the Marketing Association of Zimbabwe is another one who we work very closely with, and they all come, and then after the day, they integrate together on a different level. They always take something out of it to discuss further. So it's all about communicating and creating an opportunity for networking and upliftment of the industry generally. And that's not just lip service. We really are committed to that thought leadership. We've just launched our Speaker Alumni Initiative with SAB, whereby our former speakers always are doing a lot more gathering and sharing of ideas and promoting the industry. So it really is about networking, uplifting, promoting, and a lot of fun. It's a crazy busy day, but in a very good way. And obviously, the more people from out of South Africa we can have there, the better.
So before I let you go, the conference is generating a lot of interest especially for marketers across Eswatini who want to be part of it. What is the registration process for attending, either physically or virtually?
You can simply go onto our website, this is a real sales pitch, but here you go, www.imcconference.com. All the information's on there, the agenda, the speakers, the details, previous speakers, everything you want to know, you'll find from our website.
Thank you so much, Dale, for your time. That is IMC CEO Dale Heffer speaking on Africa's biggest marketing conference happening on the 17th of September this year in Johannesburg, live and in person. Do visit their website to register. We go for an ad break. Return shortly. Welcome back. Thank you for staying with us. This is our final segment of the program. We are now joined by Toba Kamete from Nedbank for today's market analysis. Toba, very good afternoon. Welcome back. Thank you for coming through. So yeah, let's start off with the dollar being weak. Also, employment numbers came out last week. So what is happening this week?
Thank you, Lulen. Good afternoon to you and our viewers. So yes, we've seen the dollar weakened starting from last week, Friday, where we saw the U.S. release non-farm payrolls, which indicated that jobs in the U.S. actually job opportunities or openings decreased, which speaks to the performance of the economy and how it's doing. So that number came below what market was expecting, and we saw the dollar lose quite a bit of strength. So a combination of that as well as the inflation number that is coming out later today, then is likely what investors or the market is looking at to see what the Fed is likely going to do with interest rates next month.
Yeah. All right. So what were the effects of the US dollar weakening? Did jobs shrink? Yeah, were there any effects?
Yes, so with the dollar weakening, it means that it depends on where you are looking. Obviously, then it's good for importers, but at the same time, it's bad for exporters as well, because then it means if you are an exporter, then you are getting less for your dollars, because you've been paid in dollars, and then you need to convert that to a malangeni or rands. If I'm bringing it to a local context, that is. But if you are an importer, then it means the price of goods and imports is going to be lower, which means then you're able to stretch your money and get more for your malangeni or rands.
Yeah, all right. Still in the US, the US inflation numbers were released or are yet to be released. What can we anticipate?
Yes, so we have inflation numbers coming out later today, where the market is anticipating a softer inflation print out of the US. Last month, the inflation for June was 3.5% year on year, and today the market is expecting 3.4%, so we're expecting a decline of 0.1%. That is due to, if you would remember, there was that period where there was a peace agreement in place, an interim one, which then lowered the prices of energy prices, basically. So we then do expect that even though the inflation number might be lower now, which is the inflation number for July, the inflation number that's going to be reported in August and even in September for August is likely going to be higher again because of the recent developments that have then emerged out of the conflict that we're seeing in the Middle East and the escalation or the increase that we've seen in energy prices as well. So yeah, it's just to sum it up, we do expect market is expecting a softer print by 0.1% from 3.5 to 3.4. And if that happens, then it means that the chances of the Fed hiking interest rates then, reduces. Because if inflation comes down, then they're likely going to then either hold them steady or cut. But the likely or the expected outcome is for rates to then be held constant next month.
All right. So, well, let's take a look at how commodities are performing this afternoon. Let's just start off with gold prices.
Right, so gold is doing quite well, trading at $4,410.19 per ounce. As you can see, it is 0.98% up. That is due to the weakness in the dollar. It normally goes both ways. So the weaker dollar would ordinarily then mean a stronger gold price, and it's also, as indicated, the expectation that inflation is likely going to be or likely going to dip, because then that means then that yielding assets become less attractive to investors when interest rates are likely to be constant or likely to then dip. So that is why we are seeing the price of gold going up. It's also due to the continued conflict and just sentiments that are of pessimism in the market, if I can put it like that, in terms of risk aversion. Otherwise, gold is trading quite well. We are likely going to hit the 4.5 US dollar mark on gold. Oil, quite steady, $95.97 per barrel, up slightly at 0.19%. It is due to the conflict that we continue to see in the Middle East, and as well as just not getting reports that are mixed in terms of we one moment we're getting reports from particularly the White House that a peace deal is imminent, and then next there are threats of bombing each other and being on each other's necks. But with recent developments, yesterday there was 2 bombings of shipping objects in the strait. So that shows that there's still a lot of volatility, and we are not as close as we would like to be to a truce. So that is helping pushing the price of oil up.
All right. As you said, Toba, that last week the US dollar weakened, and let's see how it's trading today, this afternoon.
All right. Yes. So the dollar is, as you can see, 16.1575 against Lilangeni. The rand being up 0.19%, and then euro 18.64, up 0.32%, and then the pound at 21.8519, down 0.37. So of the 3 major currencies, you can see that the rand or the Lilangeni is doing quite well against the 2. I think the levels that we're seeing on the dollar, the 16.15, are probably levels we've seen, I think we haven't seen since April, if I'm not mistaken. So we're seeing a strong rand taking cues from the weakness of the dollar in that regard. We, as I've indicated, it's due to the employment numbers. It's due to just markets waiting to see what the inflation number is going to look like, combining all of that technical fundamental data that is, and just anticipating then what the Fed is likely going to do with interest rates next month. Yes.
Okay, so with regards to equities, what are we seeing this afternoon?
All right, so in terms of equities, equities are actually down, almost red across. So the S&P 500 is 0.32%, down at $7,728.20. The FTSE is down 0.17%, and the JSE All Shares also down 1.3%. 0.38%. It is just due to the economic or the economic environment, if I can put it like that. Otherwise, we have continued to see a steady increase in the price of equities, with second quarter reportings currently ongoing. Most of the companies reporting good numbers, especially AI infrastructure creators. And but at the back of that, then there's the uncertainty that is then coming into play with the conflict, as well as the interest rate, the effect of that on interest rates, as well as on the economic growth due to elevated energy prices, as we continue to see oil tick up. So with all of that, then we see that weighing heavily on equities, and investors moving away from riskier assets and putting their investments or their funds into more safer options like gold, as we've seen gold doing quite well.
All right, so lastly, just before I let you go, in a minute, what added data can we expect this week?
So we have this morning, from a South African perspective, seen employment numbers as well as manufacturing data. That was, it showed that unemployment grew actually in South Africa, and but the market did not really take that into, or it didn't move the needle in terms of how the rand is performing, as we've seen that the rand is performing quite well. But it's, the markets pretty much, I would say, shrugged that off and concentrated on global and global economies. Otherwise, from the US, the most important one will be the inflation number coming out later today, which will then inform the interest rate decisions and just other bits of information. But I think what investors are mostly looking forward to, or are mostly looking out for, is just clues on, you know, the ongoing conflict, who is saying what is, you know, happening in that regard, as well as the fundamentals in terms of the data. But yeah, it's a more of a take it one day at a time kind of environment, economic environment right now.
All right, thank you, Tabo, for your insights. Always appreciated. It's 4 minutes before 3 o'clock. This is our final segment, but after the break, we come back and wrap up the program.
Digital helps you make cross-border payments. Human gives you global specialists. Digital allows you to apply for a loan anytime, anywhere. Human connects you to credit experts. Digital puts you in control of your money, while Human connects you to wealth advisors. Digital allows you to freeze, unfreeze, cancel, and reorder your card. Human gives you that personal touch. Digital when you want it. Human when you need it. Get the complete private banking experience with Nedbank Private Clients.
Attention retailers, importers, clearing agents, and customs brokers. All television sets and decoders entering the Kingdom of Eswatini now require mandatory ESTVA authorization before customs clearance. No clearance without valid ESTVA import permit. Don't risk delays at the border. Submit your application 24 to 48 hours before your shipment arrives. We process complete applications in just 1 to 2 working days. Our QR-coded permits make the verification quick and easy. Always double-check your HS codes and quantities for smooth compliance. The process is simple. Step 1. Submit your completed application form. Annex A with product line items for TVs, decoders, and commercial invoice. Step 2. Eswatini TV reviews and approves. Step 3. Make payment and complete verification. Step 4. Receive your permit. Step 5. Clear customs smoothly at the border. Make sure you have all your required documents, a completed application form, Annex A detailing your product line items, commercial invoice, valid TV retailer license, and letter of authority if applicable. Our permits feature QR codes for easy border verification. For assistance, email us at license@eswatinitv.co.za or call our help desk. Apply before your shipment arrives. Ensure compliance and avoid delays. Remember, all TV sets and decoders entering the Kingdom of Eswatini must have a valid ESTVA import permit. Thank you. Act now.
You have been watching Nedbank Business Watch. Thank you so much for staying with us on the program. We hope that you will enjoy the rest of your day. From myself and Lungelele.
Yeah, we'll see you next week Wednesday at exactly 2 p.m. Have a lovely day.
Goodbye.
Make better money choices. Choose a bank that takes your money seriously. Business Watch was brought to you by Nedbank.